you would have to fly a flight every day for over 5,000 years to be assured statistically of being in a fatal accident.
That statistic may be true based on the sheer numbers of passengers flying. But look at this map. Each dot is an aircraft flying over the United States. There are thousands of planes in the air at any given time. Somewhere in the world, there's an engine fire, emergency landing, or near miss almost every single day. So why do planes go down? Can it be fixed? The head of the FAA, David Hinson, thinks so. He's publicly declared a goal of 0 accidents.
I do believe that we can reach 0 accidents for extended periods of time and probably somewhere out in the future get to 0 accidents. I really believe that can happen.
Representing the major air carriers is Tim Neal.
The 0 accident rate is a very, very lofty goal. There's no doubt about that, because it means that you're going to have to eliminate all human error. And there's severe weather conditions, too, that are unforeseen in many cases.
Tonight, a sudden but severe thunderstorm. Jumbo jet was carrying 160
Delta Airlines.
The type of accident the industry hopes to avoid is Delta Flight 191. The 1985 crash was an imperfect combination of human error and extreme weather that brought a plane raining down from the sky.
It was pouring down real hard. We've seen lightning strike, but we don't know if it hit the plane or not.
It's also become an example of how the government and industry came together to help prevent similar tragedies.
Landing check complete.
Okay, thank you.
This stuff is moving in.
We're going to get our airplane watched.
Well, I've got lightning to the right there, Bill.
Yeah, I see lightning coming out of that one straight in front of us.
What?
There's lightning coming out of that one.
Where?
Right ahead of us.
As the Lockheed L-1011 descended below 1,000 feet, the pilots flew into an enormous black storm cloud.
We're going to lose it all of a sudden. There it is. Push it up. Push it way up. Way up. Way up.
Okay, we're losing airspeed, but...
I don't know if this is stable. Oh,
okay, there you go. Push up. Way up. Push it up. Way up.
The crew didn't know they were caught in treacherous wind shear conditions until it was too late.
Push it up, max power.
Hold up.
The plane clipped a car on a freeway, decapitating the 20-year-old driver, then skidded onto the airfield, exploding in flames. Since this horrific tragedy, the FAA has installed detection radar in several airports and in many planes. Also established mandatory pilot training for wind shear. But the question remains, why did it take an accident to make the improvements? FAA critics say the agency often has to count tombstones before they act.
The FAA is a dinosaur bureaucracy with a very primitive nervous system. If you hit it in the nose in January, the tail moves in December. The only thing that motivates that primitive bureaucracy called the FAA is blood. Many, many instances have been documented where the FAA has identified a problem. They put together a study group to analyze the problem. They work with the industry to try to solve the problem. And while that committee is meeting and pouring coffee and eating donuts, an accident happens and people are killed. As soon as those people are killed and that blood has been spilt, then the FAA issues a change, a modification or a rule that solves the problem. But the only thing that seems to motivate the FAA in this country is when people die.
That's exactly what some air traffic controllers are saying about the petrifying breakdowns and blackouts of their antiquated system.
It absolutely reduces the margin of safety. We shouldn't have to wait until we have a mid-air collision to say that was unsafe.
If they don't deal with the critical breakdowns of the air traffic control system, all it takes is
one or two mid-air collisions between two large airliners, and we will have the worst aviation death toll in American history.
Clear 3. 451 approved.
I don't know that it is criminal, but at best it's immoral what has happened in this country in the air traffic control system. It's just it's a disgrace, absolute disgrace.
These IBM 9020Es are the equipment controlling air traffic at Chicago Center, the world's busiest air corridor. The technology is so old that a 15-foot bank of the old IBMs have less power than this tiny computer chip. The bulky mainframe computers have so many outdated parts that it's nearly impossible to find technicians trained to fix them.
To be perfectly honest with you, the system is strained that it seems from coast to coast. Radar has failed in Tampa, Atlanta, Phoenix, Los Angeles, Seattle, Pittsburgh, Washington. It is a coast-to-coast epidemic of 30 and 40-year-old equipment which is failing.
It is true that there are parts of this system that are old and need to be replaced. It is also true that the FAA has been slow and not managed as well as it should have been in the context of some parts of the air traffic control system. But it is unfair and inaccurate to indict the whole system because some parts of it have not been managed in terms of modernization.
We shouldn't have to be in the foxhole this long without a supply plane. We need help.
The air traffic system is a complicated problem, but at last the FAA is making great strides to fix it. But there is another problem, one that needs only common sense to solve. I am a mother of a young child, and this really strikes a chord with me. Why do we continue to allow infants to fly without being restrained in child safety seats?
We bolt down the coffee pots, put away the glasses, tuck your carry-on bag under the seat in front of you securely, but just hold your baby on your lap. And I think a lot of passengers think, well, gee, if the airline tells me it's okay and the government tells me okay, it must be safe.
The last 15 years, 48 million infants have flown in their laps, to and under, and laps of parents in the United States. There have been 10 fatalities, as I recall. I think I'm correct. Maybe 8 of those were non-survivable in any case. 2 may have survived in child restraint systems, but only may have. There's no absolute proof.
Here's a woman who saw one of those babies just before he died. Flight attendant Jan Brown-Lohr believes she has proof the child could have been saved. Little Evan Sow was traveling to Chicago on his mother's lap. During emergency landing preparations for United Flight 232, the boy was placed on the floor. This is standard procedure just before a crash. When the plane hit the ground, Evan shot off like a missile, 15 rows across the plane.
2 children went off that way. One was very, very fortunate. An overhead bin opened, and she flew into it, and it shut and saved her life. But the other little boy, the 22-month-old boy, was not as fortunate.
If we were to mandate child safety seats, we would push millions of people back into their automobiles with their children. I've heard people say, well, who wouldn't buy a seat for their children? A lot of people. A lot of people cannot afford that extra money who fly today.
It is simply not safe, and I cannot fathom just hanging it all on finances. To me, when I see children sitting on laps, it's a game of Russian roulette. You probably will be lucky, but I am here to tell you I came face to face with a woman who lost